So thank you again, everybody, for coming and finding out about the Ayurvedic Woman Program. Before we get started, I would just like to hear from each of you, just a sentence or two as to why you showed up and what you're interested in. So I'm going to start in the upper right-hand corner of my screen, which is Stacy.
All right. Well, I was kind of hoping someone else would go first so I could use it as a template. But
so, can I pass, please?
Yes. So I'm a counselor, and I'm also a speech language pathologist. And I have found that many of my clients, I specialize in women, working with teen girls and women, that there's so many of the symptoms of depression and anxiety that I don't feel that I can address as well as if I could start to bring in and encompass their whole body, their food, their all the pieces. And I just don't have as much knowledge, of some of the parts that I'm hoping this program will offer, that I really should have to be really of service. So that's why I'm here.
I love that, Stacy. Thank you so much for sharing. And in the presentation, we'll get towards what do I learn, so that you'll know exactly what's going on. And hopefully that'll be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Megan.
Well, it's mostly personal and more of that feeling, I'm just I just listen to intuition. I don't have the thoughts organized yet, but
it's okay.
So everything about the Ayurveda, when I started the Illuminate Your Life program, was just this is my medicine. This is what I need right now. And for me, Stacy, I'm so excited to meet you. I'm in my training program to become a counselor. And so for me, I'm I keep falling back on that. I have to practice, I had to preach what I practice, and I'm in my own journey of becoming authentically me, and that's really challenging still. And I'm struggling a lot to kind of come into myself and come home fully. And so I just kind of know this is where I need to be to kind of set myself up for success for that. Historically, I have had some personal issues relating with women, just learning that that's somehow a thready, catty thing. And when I decided screw that, let's get together, ladies, it was even more exciting to find out that this was offered specifically with that Dharma you bring forward for women only. It was yay, I want a community of women. And so for me, whatever I'm doing personally, I can bring back out to others, in my work or in my relationships at home. So I'm just really excited. And it wasn't just my calendar that brought me here today. For the last few days now, I'm I've got this information meeting. So I'm excited. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Megan. I am thrilled that you're here. And already magic has started to happen, because Stacy's a counselor, and here you go. And this is what happens when women get together. I always say that the best plans happen in the women's ladies' room. That's hands down. In between the stalls and toilet paper, we got it covered. So it's good. So it's great. I love it. So, Ms. Amy, I know we know each other, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Excuse me. You're I have to find the unmute button. There you go.
The other button.
Well, I have been practicing Ayurveda wellness for 2.5 years.
2.5
years with Satyavani, obviously. And I have just received incredible healing through that practice and through doing that. And so obviously I thought, well, of course, I should probably take this one step forward. And I also want to get my yoga certification. And so that is it just kind of ties all in together. And so this was just Satyavani's been bothering me for a long time.
I've been hunting her down. We can admit it. We can be candid about this, Amy.
I'm finally wearing down to be like, okay, maybe it's time. I've said no for 2 years now.
Right.
Time.
And I don't give up. That's the thing. You know, especially, and Lee knows this very well. So thank you, Amy, so much. Lee.
So like Amy, I've been hanging around with Satyavani for about almost now 2 years, I believe. Mm-hmm. And in a really big transition. I retired from a long technical career here in the Valley and have been in this, okay, so I checked off all the boxes, you know, got married, got the house, went into debt, you know, had a great career, had a wonderful, loving husband. He passed away. Now I have a crazy boyfriend that lives in Canada that is just crazy. And
we love him.
He's easy to love. And so I'm kind of in this just really weird, no ladies land, no woman land of, now what do I do? You know, I got all, you know, being the good engineer, you know, check. And so COVID kind of got in the way of a few things. And so it's really been just treading water, and I'm kind of tired of it. And looking to build whatever these next steps are and build a community. That's one thing. When they talk about phasing out of, quote, the work channel or the work space, is really building a community. And that's not something I have done well. So this is an opportunity to build a ladies community and meet some new people. And then probably last of it all is I've been dabbling in the Ayurvedic, thanks to Satyavani, and reading and experimenting, but I'd like it to become my nature versus I have to think of a choice, if that makes any sense.
Makes perfect sense.
So I want it to be a part of my nature, not something that I'm choosing, okay, today I'm going to do this. It's like, no, of course I'm going to do this. And it just becomes a natural thing versus a thinking thing. I think that's, yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lee. I appreciate that. So I'm going to screen share and just go through the presentation. And along the way, if you have questions, just take yourself off mute and ask away. You don't have to wait for me to pause or anything like that. So let me just do this. And I'm going to move this down. And here we go. Okay. Can everybody see that? Okay, you can give me a thumbs up. That'd be great. So first, welcome to the Ayurvedic Woman Program. And this is, we lovingly call it the AWP. And that's been the acronym on the streets these days. So this is level 1, and this will be for 2022. So some of you know me and some of you don't. So you might be like, okay, who is this crazy woman? And so I want to just give you a little bit of a background. I am born and raised in New York, and I did most of my education there. I did a bachelor's degree at New York University in secondary education and social studies. So I was a high school social studies teacher in New York City for about 5 years. And during that time, I went on and I did 2 master's degrees back to back, one at Columbia, Teachers College, Columbia University, and the second one at Pace University. The one at Columbia was in humanities, and the second was in educational administration and supervision. And then in 2000, I got married and moved to California because I was tired of living in New York, the concrete jungle, and said, okay, I'm gonna move to San Francisco. And so I moved there in 2000 and did a series of positions in nonprofit education, et cetera, while doing my doctorate at the University of San Francisco. So I have a doctorate in education from the University of San Francisco in critical hermeneutic theory, which is a branch of phenomenology. And you don't even need to know what that is. It really doesn't matter. But it did have relevance to what my future was going to be like. And I landed a position after doing a couple of smaller jobs at San Francisco State University, where I worked in academia there for 5 years, and I had a total career in academia for about 10. And I made it from being a program coordinator in education, specifically at the Marian Wright Edelman Institute for Children, Youth, and their Families, and finished my career as a dean for continuing education. Then during that time, prior to that time rather, I was doing my undergraduate work in New York City, and I got hit by a car on my bicycle while I was training for a triathlon. I used to be a professional triathlete, and I was a competitive swimmer most of my life. And through a variety of different experiences that were both magical and mystical in nature, I found myself at my first yoga class. And my first yoga class then led me to Ayurveda. And so when I moved to California, one of the first things that I did was to try to find an Ayurvedic Vaidya, a doctor of Ayurveda, that could help me heal not only the injuries that I had, but the physical manifestations of taking a lot of medication because I had sunk into a very serious depression. And during my time prior to moving to California, I battled with depression and anxiety and was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at a very young age and was given every medication you could possibly think of to take. At one point in time, I was taking 2,000 milligrams of lithium every single day.
Ooh.
And yeah, it was beautiful. And so,
I bet.
so I, from that experience, one day I woke up in my tiny New York City apartment, decided I was moving to California, and then opened up my medicine cabinet and dumped every pharmaceutical that I had in the cabinet into the trash, and never looked back. Went to California, found an Ayurvedic doctor, and prior to that, I was studying Ayurveda and yoga. I started that journey. So that was 29 years ago, because I'm an old person now. And so my journey then began with studying Ayurveda and yoga on the side. Went through the natural process of continuing my doctorate, working full time, and then went on to get my yoga teacher training certification, became a yoga teacher, and then decided that it was time that I go to Ayurveda school. I did my Ayurvedic health practitioner certification at New World Ayurveda, and then did a summer at the Kerala Academy in India, in Kerala. And now I am pursuing my Ayurvedic medical degree at the California College of Ayurveda, which I'll finish in about 2 years. Woohoo! And it has been an incredible experience. In 2016, fast forward, I moved to California and got divorced, and then was like, I am never going to get married again. It's not going to happen. I was 30 years old. And then my husband, Michael, fell into my life. And so he and I have, we've been married. It'll be 16 years this December, Christmas Day. We got married on a African safari in Kenya. And in 2016, we opened, in 2006, rather, we opened up the Zen Spot Institute. And the Zen Spot Institute has been dedicated to yoga, Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, Vedic sciences, and traditional Chinese medicine ever since. So my husband's the Chinese medicine and the Taoist side of the house, and I'm the tantric, crazy Ayurvedic woman on the other side of the house. And we first set up shop in New York, and then we moved to Oregon, lived in Oregon for 8 years. And then in 2016, we moved to Boise. So what is an Ayurvedic woman? So this is the current Ayurvedic woman posse in level 1, because we are so cool. And there's this great quote that comes from the Vedas, one of the most ancient texts that has ever existed known to man. And it says, all righteousness, all wealth, abundance, and all of creation depend on women, upon women. And that is 100% true. Ayurvedic woman comes in all shapes and sizes, all ages, all backgrounds, etc. And it really is about building this group of women that are looking at the ancient sciences of Ayurveda, yoga, and spiritual practice to not only get to know themselves better so that we can be better in the world, but also to help with ensuring that our female community is rising up. There's this wonderful quote from Deepika Delmenico in this book that's literally titled The Ayurvedic Woman. And for the record, the book got published after I formed the program. A lot of people are like, did you form that because of the book? I'm like, no, but we do use her book in the program. So, and she writes, the great feminine is an energy inherent in each of us that has the potential for infinite possibilities. It is a source of mighty power. Although soft and nourishing, it is formidable in capacity and capability. As the manifestation of the original mother, you as a woman must cultivate your innate intimate establishment with the great feminine. And I love that quote because to me, it's a calling. It's a calling. This is not just, oh, it would be great to get together with a bunch of gals over the weekend and talk all of this stuff, but rather this is indeed a calling. And what I actually call it is a movement. The present and the future are female, gals, okay? We must look to the female archetype for alternative forms of leadership. Let's just take a look at what's happening in the world right now. I'm just gonna leave it at that, gals. Okay. I'll leave that on the table and y'all can chew on that. It's also about what can we learn from the female energy in our lives. And I love that it has been brought up that some of us haven't done well in female circles. And I will tell you that every program, every group of women that I have worked with, there is always at least 10 to 15% of the women who have had that issue as well. And so what I appreciate about that is that even though that might be something that you're trying to figure out, that you step into this and reap the benefits of how wonderful it is to work with other women. This also means that we will no longer live in a world that believes that hierarchy and zero-sum games are the only viable forms of social organization. Like, no, women are naturally more collaborative. Feminine energy is more collaborative. So even within our male counterparts, within our male colleagues, with our male partners, all of them, they have female energy as well. It just is a matter of whether or not they choose to tap into it. A present and a future that offers up the alternative that each person has something unique to contribute to the world. I don't want you to be me. I don't want Megan to be Lee. I don't want Amy to be Stacy. I want you guys to be fully who you are and contribute to the world in your unique way. It's a world that is collaborative, in which we are linked and not ranked. And what also happens in this space is that we hold one another accountable. We raise one another up. We work together. And we do that through the ancient Vedic sciences of Ayurveda, yoga, and spiritual practice. So that is the backdrop. And like I said before, the Ayurvedic Woman is a movement. This is not a sorority. This is not a Mean Girls Club. Those are the things I say on the first weekend. If that's your thing, then you need to exit. This is a movement for a new type of woman. This is taking ancient practices, incorporating them into our lives, and empowering ourselves and our sisters to create change in the world through our own unique karmic and dharmic blueprint. And you will find out what your karmic blueprint is. So how do we do this? We ask the questions and cultivate the responses to these three ancient questions. Who am I? Who am I really? I am not the labels that have been assigned to me. I am not the resume. I am not the credential list. I am not the checkoff box of all of the things it is that I was supposed to do in society. I am way more than that. What is my dharma? What is my purpose in life? What am I here for? And some of you might know what that is, and some of you might not know what it is. And you want to know something? When I first started this process, I was like, I have no idea who the hell I am and what the heck I'm supposed to do. And so being with my fellow Acharya sisters, I was able to figure out some of those things. And thus the Ayurvedic Woman Program was born. And then the last question that we look at is, how do I transcend? And what does that mean? That means, how do I take who I know who I am? How do I take what my dharma is? And how do I do that in the world that is trying to keep me in a very conventional space? Because the last thing the world wants is a bunch of women who have found their power and doing their stuff in the world. And so how do I transcend all of the labels, all of the conditioning, all of the history, all of the paradigms? How do I do that? And we spend 12 months going through this, and then 15 more if you want to be part of part 2. I love this quote. If you bring forth what is within you, it will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, it will destroy you. And that comes from the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas. And what I love about that quote is that this is very unequivocal. All of you are probably here because you're like, there's something more. There's something more I'm supposed to contribute. There's something more that I'm supposed to do. There's something more that I'm supposed to figure out. And literally, it's that energy that wakes us up in the middle of the night. That's like, oh my goodness, like, I have to figure this out. It doesn't even give you a choice anymore, especially as we get older and more mature. You know, when we're teenagers and we're in our early 20s, we're doing the things that everybody thinks that we're supposed to do because we do the things because that's what everybody tells us to do. And that's what our parents did. And so we're doing all of that. And the reality is that at some point in time, we come to the space where it's like, no, I have to do this. And this might not be the way mom did it, or dad did it, or my siblings did it, or my colleagues did it, or my friends did it, et cetera. But I'm doing it because I'm doing it. And what that really is stepping into your power and living your best life. Because once you do bring forth what is within you, not only can you not go back and you can't unsee, but you will have nothing but momentum to want to move forward. So who joins the AWP movement? Everybody. All women are welcome. A lot of folks ask me, well, do I have to be a yoga teacher? Do I, is everybody just, 25, 30 years old? No, everybody. I have had my youngest who has participated at 21 and eldest at 70. And what's beautiful about that is having multi-generations, multi-experiences as a result of just age and time and how they interact and how they can really work together and share stories and also share experiences and be able to tap one another into what it is that's going on as a result of the paradigm that they're coming from. So we all learn as a result. So everybody's welcome. So what is Ayurveda? Most of you here know what it is, but just as a very brief refresher, Ayurveda is broken up into two words. It's a Sanskrit term, and Ayur or Ayus means life, and Veda means knowledge. So literally, this is the knowledge of life, our lives. And literally, what could be more important than that? Because you are the most important person in the world. Without you, none of this would be the same. And what better way than to learn about you? It's like the best class you'll ever take in your life. Wow, this is interesting. So what am I going to learn? Let's talk brass tacks. And this is just brief bullets. All of the energy that happens when we all get together, that Shakti, that energy, is something I can't even begin to capture. And so I don't even try. What you will learn are foundational Ayurvedic principles to assist in better understanding of yourself. And we'll learn about the ancient texts and the teachings that they have for optimal living. You'll learn how Ayurveda looks at psychology and the principles of dis-ease. There'll be foundational principles of Jyotish astrology, which is one of the 3 Vedic sciences, and how it applies to your life and your dharmic path. We bring in our honorary Ayurvedic woman, Mr. Casey Scott, who is our, and Lee knows him because she took his Jyotish class last year. And Casey is a phenomenal Jyotishi, and he has worked with the AWP for the past 3 years, and 2022 will be its 4th year. So he loves it. He does an amazing job, and you will get your dharmic blueprint as a result of working with him. We also learn about the journey of the soul and what you're meant to bring forth in this lifetime. What masculine and feminine energies look like from an Ayurvedic and a yogic perspective. Yogic asana from an Ayurvedic perspective. What postures are good to do with this condition or that condition, or just in general. So if you are looking at not only expanding your personal practice, but also incorporating that into your professional practice, these are great tools to have. You'll learn about the channels of the body, the membranes, junction points, and how blockages occur and how you can release them. Stages of disease, and what do you do when we have stages of disease? You'll learn about food from an Ayurvedic perspective, the cycles of birth, death, and rebirth from a yogic and Ayurvedic perspective, and the desires of life that we all have and how to turn them into your life's purpose. And also to come into your own based on what you are meant to do in this life instead of what you think you should do. So, and for the record, I want to say this, that all religious and spiritual backgrounds are welcomed, because we can only learn from each other more that way. So this is not like, this is a dogma and you have to subscribe to it, et cetera, but rather like, let's play with these ideas. This is what the ancients said. And if you have a strong philosophical, spiritual, or religious background, let's throw that into the mix as well. That makes us so much better. So what are the logistics? And I love that Margot is reading this magazine article, says, what the fuck is this? Because that just cracks me up. So the logistics on this are that if, for those of you who are interested, you will receive a 500-hour yoga teacher training certificate that is represented and acknowledged by the Yoga Alliance. The Zen Spot Institute has 200, a joint 300-hour, and several 500-hour programs that are recognized by the Yoga Alliance. So when we have graduation, everybody gets a certificate if they want it. If they don't want it, then they don't have to have it. Either way, but you come to graduation anyway.
Hey,
yes, lovely.
I have a question about that. Do you need to have your 200-hour before you get your 500, or?
No. 200 hours subsumes a 5.
Okay.
So some people do a 200-hour and then they go on for what is a bridge known as a 300, and they get a total of 5. This program was designed so that the 200 goes all the way, incorporates the 300. So it all comes together.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. And you already teach asana, Amy, so there's nothing that I need to teach you. You'll just learn some really cool stuff as it relates to Ayurvedic postures. And I mean, well, postures that can be incorporated as Ayurvedic, not that there are Ayurvedic postures, but you get, the program is 12 months in length. It's 1 weekend per month with the month of July off, because everybody deserves a summer vacation, including this gal. The dates of the program are also listed on our website, but they are each of these weekends. And as you can see, July is off. So we start at the end of January and we go all the way through until December of 2022. And we have a graduation ceremony. The cost of the program is $5,500, and there's a non-refundable $500 deposit that's required to secure your spot in the program, but it gets applied to your balance. So I just keep the $500 because if you decide at the last minute to pull out, that space could have been occupied by somebody else. And so I try to manage that. Payment plans are always an option. And you can have a payment plan for up to 15 months. So what happens is that you register for the program, you choose your option. I send you a DocuSign, or rather Jen, our office manager, sends you a DocuSign. You fill it out and you choose how long you want to pay. You just literally simply do the math. If it's $5,500 and you want to divide that by 10, then you know you're paying $550 a month, et cetera, et cetera. So that is a payment plan that you choose, and there are many options. What's included are all the texts, the training manuals, and the supplies that are included. The first portion of the program, we do a lot of interaction with herbs and teas, as well as oils. And so all of those products are part of the program. You don't have to pay for them separate. Through the course of the 12 months, you get 5 free Ayurvedic consultations with me. So you can come in and we do the stuff and we check all of your vitals, as well as any kind of questions or things that are coming up mentally, emotionally, or physically. Throughout the program, there's 15% off of all of our products in the shop. So outside of the products that you receive, if there are other things it is that you want, there's a 15% discount. And then we add into it additional free weekly meditation and movement class. So my husband does a weekly meditation class online on Sundays. You are welcome to join that for free. And we have a couple of movement classes in the fall that you are welcome to join. So how do I sign up? So for the early bird, November 1st is the deadline, and that saves you $300. So instead of it being $5,500, it is $5,200. You can sign up right on the website, or you can call our office manager, Jen, if you want the personal touch. We're good with all of the things. So if you prefer to talk to somebody, you're welcome to do that. And if you prefer to just sign up online, you can do that right there as well. And so at this point, I just wanted to know if you had any questions, because we'd love to have you join the movement. So I'm going to stop screen sharing and see what's up.
So Sanjani, are there any other, this is Lee, are there any other excursions, or given the world as it is with this little thing called COVID, are there any other additional excursions that you guys are planning potentially?
In the AWP level 1, we don't. However, we do, I will say this, we do local excursions. So sometimes we'll have sadhana in the park, and there's a couple of activities within the program that we do in the mountains. So, but they are drivable within the Boise region, the greater Boise area.
And those are additional expenses?
No, not at all.
That's
they
all
happen on the
included?
weekends. Yeah, they happen on the weekends.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of times that I throw in some other stuff because I love you guys and I just love having fun things to do. And one of them, as an example, is I planned this year for this group an Ayurvedic dinner. So I hired a chef who knows herbs and Ayurvedic stuff, and everybody got dressed up and we had a dinner and we had mocktails based on all of the different Ayurvedic herbs that were concocted, et cetera. So there's always bonus stuff that happens. I will tell you that.
Okay.
Level 2, we do formal retreats. So if that's something that after level 1, you're like, hey, I really want to join level 2, that does include 3 4-day retreats.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. I think somebody else had a question. Megan.
Yeah, I did. I was wondering if you could elaborate on kind of just a little bit of an idea what to expect weekends to look like, and
in terms of schedule.
Yeah. So there's looking at that schedule. So the classes would be like
it's a Friday night. Yep.
Friday night.
So it's Friday nights from 6 to 9, and then Saturday and Sunday 8 to 4.
Okay.
So everybody can get home and have dinner with their family at a reasonable time, and then they're not getting home super late on a Sunday. So, yep. And so for people who have to work on Fridays or go to school or whatever, you have that time between, until 6 o'clock.
Okay. And then can we have access to this PowerPoint so we can review all those dates with our schedule?
1000%.
Great. Thank you.
I will also send out a link to the video if you would like that as well. So, Any other questions? Stacy.
So I was wondering, in preparation, did you have any book recommendations that we should read, or any anything like that that you would find helpful?
I can absolutely provide a book recommendation. And you are also in the program, we read 4 different books together.
Okay.
That are part of the materials. So, and you will receive that as part of the tuition. But I can absolutely, make a couple of other preliminary recommendations if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting? I was looking at your presentation. I wonder why we don't teach this in school. Like when you were showing it, don't you think? Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, if they taught this in school.
Right? What a better world we would have.
Yes. Yes. Anyway, that's not a question. That's just something that kept coming up for me over and over again. So I just wanted to speak it out loud.
I love that, Stacy. And maybe part of your dharmic path is to help us do that. Who knows? Okay. It's and that I will tell you that that question comes up over and over again. And last spring, one of the gals who's in the level 2 of the AWP, Lori Lodge, she and I got together and we put together a much smaller version of this called Illuminate Your Life that Megan participated in, because we were also trying to get people, in that teens, 20s, early 30s bracket for that exact reason. It was like, why do people not know this knowledge? And that was an outgrowth of Lori's desire to really start to put it out there. So we teamed up on that. And that's how Megan, got into the pipeline. So, yeah, but you're absolutely right. It would be so much better if we taught these kinds of things rather than a variety of other things. So, yeah. Any other questions?
I have one. What
Go
is
ahead.
the outside of our weekends? What does that look like for like homework that we're doing outside?
Great question. Great question, Amy. Thank you for that. So every month you will get what I call a sadhana buddy, and Megan is used to that term. So a sadhana buddy, sadhana means practice. And so you have a practice buddy. And the two of you hold each other accountable and check in with one another at least a couple of times in between our weekends, because there's usually about 4 weeks. Sometimes it's 5, depending on how the month falls. And that can be, and oftentimes each month I will give you a task to do with your sadhana buddy. And that could just be, hey, I just want you to check in on this, or I want everybody, and there are homework assignments. So there is reading of books and journaling. And sometimes there are written pieces that I ask you to submit. Because level 1 is also tied to the 500-hour certification, I have to have paperwork that shows that y'all did the work. So yeah, but it's not ominous. I mean, some people, it was funny because I have one gal who's in my level 2. She's just like, oh, I hate doing assignments. And it's just so funny. Like every time she would hand an assignment, she would complain about it. I'm like, and I'm going to keep giving you homework just for that. So, yeah, but it's actually, it's super interesting. So yeah, but great question. Thank you.
So how, Mrs. Lee again,
Yes.
how flexible is the program if you're not necessarily in Idaho for a time? Is there a way to zoom in, or
yes,
is it
yeah,
really
we have the Zoom technology to be able to zoom people in.
Okay.
I do know from past experience that, obviously you're not going to get the same feel, and all of that, but we can. And I also know that there's sometimes like there's a couple of days on a weekend, or it could be a full weekend, that people have obligations, weddings happen, deaths happen. I mean, we've had it all happen over the past, especially over the past 18 months, but we've had it all happen. And so stuff comes up, and I'm of the mind that if you want to be there, you will be there. And if there's other obligations that happen, I just ask for a heads up. But what I will not do is I will not meet with you privately and reteach the entire weekend. It'll be your responsibility to meet with your sadhana buddy, do the readings and catch up in that way. Of course, I'll answer questions, but like I said, I'm not going to reteach a weekend.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And kind of on that, because I was thinking like, oh boy, sometimes I have weekend classes that are Friday evening, like 5 to 10 at night, and then the next day, Saturday, 8 to 5. And I'm like, oh boy, that could be a problem. Would there be like recordings, or it is just all hearsay, we have to check in?
Yeah, it'll have to be a check-in. Yeah. It's just the recording thing for this type of program is just, it's very challenging. Like you really do have to be present.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound difficult. I'm just being 100% honest. Yeah. It's not designed that way. I have some plans for, a couple of moons down the road to perhaps create an online version of this, but it'll be very different. It'll be very different.
Yeah. Sounds like it's kind of that working with that embodiment has to be experiential in the here and now. Yeah.
You nailed it, Megan. Yeah, that's really what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's something very important about all of us being together. So yeah. Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you so much, ladies. I so appreciate it. And if you have any follow-up questions, I will send out an email to everybody by this time tomorrow, not only with the recording link, but also how to, I'll PDF the PowerPoint. The one thing that I ask is that you do not share it with anybody outside of this group. You just keep that with you. You are welcome to share the information. I just prefer that the presentation stay within the group. Okay.
One more question.
Sure.
How long does the early bird special go to?
November 1.
Okay.
November 1. And that's on the PowerPoint. So when you get it, you'll
it is.
have it.
Yeah. I didn't see it. Sorry.
That's okay. Don't ever, that's the other thing. Stop apologizing.
Reaction word. Yes, I get it.
Totally. So yeah, already starting the undoing. We're doing great. Awesome. So thank you so much for your time, ladies. I appreciate you. And if you know how to find me, and that'll be great. Have a great weekend.
Yay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Okay. See ya. Nice to meet y'all.
Nice to meet you.